Hello again, I'm Dr. Brian Carr, and I'm a candidate running for member-at-large for the Lubbock Independent School District. I'm doing this series of short videos because I want to give you a chance to know where I stand and what I think. So let's talk a minute about standardized testing. Now, this is very personal to me because I think I struggled academically in school. I passed everything, but it was very mediocre. I enjoyed band in junior high and high school, and then later in college. So there were things that kept me going, but I think one of the big problems that I saw was that as I was going through Monterey High School, that my standardized testing was not that great. And I remember that the guidance counselor, who's a nice person, advised me that as to my post-high school plans, he suggested that I should get a job. He also told me that I really wasn't cut out for college, and I'd have to say that based on the scores, that prediction fit in with the assessment. But you know what I really like is the fact that it was wrong. That after high school, where I graduated 605 out of 720 from Monterey, I went to college and then kind of was mediocre, but then toward the end I started to figure out that it really wasn't that hard if you just applied yourself. If you just did a little bit every day, it worked out fine. And so I graduated Texas Tech in 1980, and then went on and got my master's from St. Mary's University in San Antonio, where I made 1B. And then in my doctoral program, I went up to Indiana State University, School of Education, degree in counseling psychology, where I made a 4.0. And so I think that through all of this, so in the end, all of my graduate school, I had a 3.97 GPA and did really well. And I like to think it's because I just figured a few things out, but I had to overcome that standardized testing, the one that told me that, well, you're just not really cut out for this. So I think benchmark testing can be helpful, but how many of y'all, particularly those of you that have children that have gone through this experience, feel that when your child's coming up to the STAR test or other tests that we've used over the years, that the school just kind of ground to a halt while the school's taught to the test? And they did it because of the fear of, well, we're going to have trouble with funding or other things. And I think that you can over-rely on those standardized testing. And again, it's a personal experience for me to know that if I hadn't been able to just to hang on until I kind of figured it out, where would I be? But nevertheless, it's kind of interesting now that whenever I go to my high school reunions and I visit with people from Monterey, class of 1975, and I tell them that I have a doctorate in psychology, and they look at me like, yeah, no, like from what Cracker Jack box did you get that? It's like, no, for real. I mean, it's a real Tier 1 school, American Psychological Association approved, everything's straight up. And I think it's just a wonderful accomplishment because it tells me that I can hold my example up to other students coming behind or people coming behind me, where you have to kind of figure out the work ethic. You have to figure out that it's not difficult if you just get up and do it every day. And so the point is, we need schools like that. We need schools that, yes, we'll have to rely on some degree of benchmark testing, but not to just overload our teachers with it and make it the entire focus of literally weeks and months of the school year, but rather to sit there and say, we want to use that as one measure, but we need other measures. And so I think to appreciate that some people are going to have different tracks that they're approaching. And so to have those relationships working out so that we can sit there and offer better career guidance, better vocational guidance, and better college guidance for those who want it. So I think that that's going to be part of the issue, is not so much a reliance on standardized testing, to let them know down in Austin that we want to have other measures that show how we're doing, and not to just feel like we act under the heavy yoke of what passes in Austin or passes in Washington. So I hope that this may give you some thought to consider, because again, I want to support our teachers, I want to support our students. And so when we talk about standardized testing, I'm going to be out there on that school board making sure that we do it in a reasonable way, in a way that is helpful, and it doesn't leave our children with a sense of failure or a sense of low self-esteem, because every kid counts. And I believe that firmly, and I hope that you'll give me your vote. But when we come up on the election, early elections are coming up soon, early voting's coming up, elections on May 7th. Appreciate your thought and consideration for what I have to say. Thank you.